You're listening to the ADHD Heroes Podcast, a podcast where we speak with the heroes of the ADHD community, namely educators, mental health professionals, and of course, those with ADHD themselves, to gain insights, tools, and most importantly, inspiration towards succeeding and thriving with ADHD. I'm your host, Rabbi Shmulik Blackman, a high school rabbi and an ADHD coach in private practice. Welcome to the show. Hi there. On this episode of the ADHD Heroes Podcast, we have Rabbi Shmulik Blackman, our anonymous guest. He's back. Tells us more of his story, and he's still funny. So he tells us the journey of his early career, about being a teacher with ADHD, teaching kids with ADHD, imposter syndrome, different tools and resources that he's found useful, choosing a career he values despite having more lucrative offers, ADHD behaviors that mimic hoarding disorder, the difference between teaching religious studies and secular studies as someone with ADHD, the value of external structure, and a lot more. Thanks again, and enjoy the show. Rabbi Blackman, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Let's continue discussing your career. So we left off last time. Someone found you, saw talent, and put you in the classroom. A little more about that, and a little more about the broader aspects of your career that we mentioned in the pregame.
All right. So that was probably a turning point because I never thought that I had a hard time in school, right? So I didn't hate school as an idea. I hated school as an experience. I guess it was very difficult. There were teachers who I thought were cool, and I never thought that I would be able to do it, but when the situation presented itself, and I was like, wow, that would be fantastic, right? Again, I wanted to be a Rebbe, but it ended up not panning out. The first time I went for an interview, and he gave me a chance to try out as a Rebbe, and I put a lot into it. It didn't work out. He took somebody else, but he did give me a position in the afternoon teaching general studies. So obviously the money wasn't the same, the time wasn't the same, and the experience is not the same.
Right.
I took it. I said, I think, and he sort of said that if you do this, you could build into the morning job, teaching Hebrew studies in the morning. So I was fine.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's nice, right?
Yeah. Who knows? Like again, it still hasn't really happened, but that was the promise, right? I went in and I did not know what I was doing. I really, really, truly didn't know. Like the one thing that I knew is that teachers need to have good incentive systems. So like I spent the whole summer trying to figure out how I'm going to bribe kids to behave and how I'm going to punish them if they don't behave. That was like the whole preparation. I didn't really know. Like I sort of looked through the book. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I know a lot of stuff and I could talk about it, but like teaching, like going to teachers' college and following the procedures that teachers do and all that stuff, I was like, this is not going to be good. But whatever. But to my principal's credit, the Manal, he was really good. That if you're familiar, there's a rabbi called Rabbi Kramer. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll explain what it is. Rabbi Kramer is a veteran teacher, principal, an expert in education and classroom management. And I didn't know it at the time, but he has this yearly boot camp or workshop. It's a 1.5 day workshop, takes place in Lakewood, and you go. It's like I think it's 3 2-hour sessions, or maybe a little bit longer. And so my principal, he paid for me to go in all the way to Oklahoma City. There was a few other rabbis from the city who were going in, and we went for this. And it blew my mind because he is a master. Again, I don't know if everybody can do what he does the way he does it because he's him. He says that you could. He says that if you follow my instructions, you will have the class eating out of the palm of your hand, or you will have complete control. You won't need to deal with any problems. Again, that works for him, and it probably works for some people. But just seeing him presenting the idea of like how to ignore things, when kids are sort of looking for attention, how to sort of come in with a presence, how to come in with authority, how to not get involved in little petty arguments with kids, how to be higher than them, how to connect with them. It was a great experience. So that was 6 hours or more. And that gave me a little bit of confidence going into the classroom. I went into the classroom and basically everything flew out the window, like everything that I'd learned. But it helped that it had a little bit of background. So that first year, that was an interesting year. Definitely, everybody knew that I was first year teacher. Like the school, they have a policy that the teachers should call up the parents of all the boys in the class before the year and introduce themselves, which is a great idea. But it was so hard for me to do. It was so difficult because I felt, again, we may have mentioned imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something that many people suffer from, particularly people with ADHD. It's this idea that I don't deserve the position that I have right now. I'm not really good enough. And people might think that I may have tricked them, but in reality, I don't know what I'm doing. And any success that I'm having, it's sheer luck. And at any second, all of it can fall apart. And probably some people are seeing through my bluff. And like, just like, you're always scared. So it's very difficult to call the parents. They're like, oh, who are you? Where are you from? Like, I'm going to be your son's teacher. Like, oh, how long have you been a teacher? It's going to be my first year. Oh, good luck. But some parents were really nice. Again, most parents don't hate their kids' teachers, and they want the kids to do well, and they want them to have a good teacher. But it was very difficult just to get that breakthrough and coming to the classroom. So the way we had it the first few years that I was teaching was that there was a class of around 30 boys, and they split them into two groups. And before recess, you would teach one group, and then after recess, the other group would come and you would teach them. So I had my two little classes. Actually, one was 15, one was 14 boys, so 29 boys total. And again, I was happy to be there, but I knew that there was going to be trouble brewing. And there's like, again, in any class, you're going to have a real broad mixture of kids. So
Right.
obviously, we had a few ADHD kids. There was one kid who was a legend, and from my beginning of teaching until this year, I never had a kid in the class with such a high degree of ADHD, like super hyperactive. This year I think I found another one who may have beat him, may have topped him. But that first year, this kid, he was, oh my goodness, he was everything that you can imagine. Textbook ADHD, Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. He's complete hyperactivity, could not sit still, charming, bright eyes, wide open, and just talked a mile a minute, could not control himself, running around the room. I didn't know what to do with him. I really, really, truly did not know what to do with him. But I felt for him. I liked him. I didn't want to punish him, but at the same time, like I was always trying to help him out.
Did you feel a sense of kinship with a kid like that?
I always have a hard time when I feel that there's a kid that isn't getting what he needs or just has difficulties that are beyond his control. I have a very hard time coming down on them because of what I went through in school and so on. So
Oh, that's great.
it's probably to my detriment, right? Because like some teachers, they have to really structured and firm and be like, I'm sorry if that can't happen. You do it again, you're out. Like I couldn't like. So this actually benefited me long term. That when I see these kids years later, they're like, I remember you were the guy who was nice to me. But short
I
term,
was
like
going to say, it's probably hard for you to run the class, but what do you think it does for the kid? I think
yeah,
it's amazing, no?
it's amazing for the kid, but at the same time, like
Yeah.
he was rooting the class, and he himself wasn't learning that great. But I really tried. Like with him, I was open to just about anything. So one
Right.
thing that I allowed is I said, like, hey, can we get him an MP3 player? And he had a hoodie, like a hooded sweatshirt. And like, well, he was a really bright kid, like really, really smart. Like he could just like
Right.
chug through his work quickly. Like I don't care if he listens to music in class, let him do that. So we got
Oh,
special
it's
permission from the
great.
principal. It was great. Like all these ideas are great in theory. The problem is that they don't work in a big setting. As you'll see what's going to happen. What do you think is going to be the first thing that's going to happen? What's the downside of
Somebody
that?
else going to want one.
Someone else is going to want one. And it was somebody who could probably use it, but not as much.
Right.
And the kid, it wasn't the same situation. This kid was like textbook ADHD, hyper, but smart and positive and wanted to work. Other kid was maybe ADHD, but there's probably some anxiety going on and just like really not with the program. And he just wanted to listen to music. And I think
Right.
that he came in, may have come in with like a big pair of over the head headphones. And then like it just like the whole thing just fizzled out. Like, we needed to, and then maybe somebody unplugged their MP3 when we were playing the music out loud. And I was like, so it didn't last for too long, but theoretically, it's a great idea. How would it work? It would work probably in a very small class or like
Right.
in
How
an
old were
environment
these
where,
guys?
so they're 11 turning 12.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah,
So old enough that it could work.
old enough this could work. So again, it did work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me instructing him, but it does work for him. When it comes time for him to do quiet work, it was a real benefit. And it's something that helps me as well. Like I
Right.
know that when I have big projects that need to get done, for example, report cards or other things like that, they're just like very intensive and I need to block out the background, put headphones on, over the ear headphones are great. In-ear AirPods or earbuds or whatever are also great. And usually music, again, depending what you're doing. If you're doing like a menial task like folding laundry or washing dishes, podcasts, audiobooks, and sure are fantastic. And that was, but I'm going to branch off right now. Like in my married life, I was horrible in terms of like helping around the house. Like ADHD people are generally not great housekeepers. I don't know if anybody ever
Yes.
realized that. They're really not great because a lot of the work is tedious, it's boring, it requires a lot of steps and executive function. It's like, I couldn't do it. But when I started to like get audiobooks and share them with headphones, like I realized like or like cleaning for Pesach, like I could do or Passover. Yeah, so it really helped me. Like I could like start folding laundry. Like I could fold laundry for hours. Like if I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast or share that I like I could do anything. I don't care. As long as it's something that doesn't require huge amounts of thought and critical thinking, I'm great because my brain is being stimulated. I don't mind doing the actions. It was just like the type of moment when you realize that you're not actually lazy. Like people with ADD many times are characterized as lazy and not working hard enough. And you believe it, right? Because you've been told it and you see it. You see the outcomes. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're like, yeah, I'm really lazy. But they're not. And this is, again, going on another tangent. One of the problems with doing research on ADHD is that there's so much written now. And it's hard to find the good stuff. There's so much out there. There's so much out there. And some things are great. And some things are like, no, you started wasting your time with it. So anytime I get a tip on like what's a good book, have you read Driven to Distraction by Ned Hallowell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like when I read that, yeah, that was the best. It was so good. Like I just read it recently. I'm like, oh, this is so good. And to anybody who's listening, if you have ADHD or if you know somebody who has ADHD and you really want to get a good feel for it and you want to have a fun read, read Ned Hallowell's or Dr. Ed Hallowell, Driven to Distraction, which is the first really popular book written
Yeah.
for people with ADHD, written in the early 90s. The thing is fantastic. It's hilarious. It's really, really interesting. And it's a very engaging read. And it gives you a real inside look into how people with ADHD work and what happens when they become adults and so on. Actually, I recently read his ADHD 2.0. Have you read that one?
I haven't read it. No, I've seen it around, but I haven't read it.
Yeah. Yes, I just got it because I liked the first one so much. Completely different book. It's much more like practical, like new studies have shown that this can help, and new studies have shown that that can help. Much more dry. Again, it's a good book. It has a lot of good information, but it's not the same format. Like his first book was just like so many interesting stories of like these super charismatic ADHD people that he was interviewing, and he himself has ADHD. So
Yes, he
yeah,
does. Yeah.
that was a great experience.
That's how he
Back
wrote
to
20 books. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but he's definitely catching in now. Like he has camps, he has programs, he has books, he has a podcast. He's probably rolling in it by now, but I think he worked pretty hard at the beginning. But he's a cool
He
guy.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about not lazy, stupid, or crazy. Yeah, it's this moment where you realize that you're not lazy and you could do work. It's just a lot of times it's I don't know how to do this, or this thing is too difficult for my brain to work through the steps, or this thing is too boring for me to complete. And like, give me a stack of undershirts to fold. I can fold undershirts for 2 hours straight, just as long as I have something good to listen to. Like, and like the same thing with driving. Like, if I have like a good podcast or a good shear or something, I could drive for hours. You know, I love driving. There was something that I took out of Ned Hallowell's book that people with ADHD love movement. I was like, they really do. And whether it's hyperactivity or whether it's just like sort of just spaced out ADHD, non-hyperactive, but like that the novelty of traveling, like I know when I'm driving from one city to another, like here's something that comes up a lot is that if I'm a passenger, it's much harder to be a passenger than to be the driver. When I'm the driver, like I'm in the zone, I go for hours. Like living in Oklahoma City, you get a lot of opportunities because it's many hours to New York. You know what I mean? I'm in the zone. Like you're passing through cities, you're seeing the signs like, oh, this city is only 84 miles away. You know, it's really stimulating. And then going through different kinds of different things, trying not to get tickets, trying not to hit the deer on the road. Again, movement is great, driving is great, and having something to help you focus is great. So yeah, this is all of a spin-off from our kid with headphones in the classroom. But like here's a great life hack. If you don't do this yet and you have ADHD and you need help or you know somebody who does, have them find a podcast or a share. Hey, maybe this podcast that they really like, or it could be music. Music is also good. Oh my goodness, I'm totally going on a tangent because report cards were music. So we're saying, yeah, music and preferably without lyrics. Like if you have, unless it's like an album that you know very well and like the lyrics can become background, but if it's something that you haven't listened to that much, the lyrics are piquing your attention, it'll distract you from the brain intensive work that you're doing. But it could be like classical music soundtracks, or it could be like hard, high energy, like a pump up type of music or whatever. I went through all different types of background music, and you just put the headphones in and you zone in, and you get into that state of hyper focus, which is ADHD people are famous for, and you can really get a lot done when you need to do it. So that's what the kid had. Then we had to pull it away. In the class, besides for this kid, there was a lot of other kids with a lot of different challenges. There's one kid whose parents had split up and his mother got remarried and then gotten divorced again. And this kid, he was probably ADHD also, but he had huge anger, right? Because I think he was probably going through a lot of trauma and through a lot of pain. And like every once in a while, he'd start beating kids up. So the funny thing is, like a lot of these kids now, this is almost 10 years ago. Like I see them now, and almost all of them are doing great. So, some of them are struggling a little bit. A lot of the ones who were really, really struggling, I don't know what happened, whether they went for therapy or they went for meds or they matured or the situation improved or they found their place in the world. But a lot of them have really come out looking really great.
Or they were inspired by the right teacher, maybe.
Yeah, I met some of these kids actually from the next year who were drunk on Purim. And they're like, oh, you were the best. You're the best teacher. You were so great. I remember. I hated everybody else except for you. I'm
Oh,
like,
there it is.
it was. I was like, I didn't teach you anything. I must have taught something, but like I was very bad in coding the curriculum. I was teaching that year math and science, and again, like I tried to create my own curriculum for science, which is not a great idea for a first year teacher. I love creating things from scratch, and I hate doing things the normal way, right? So I tried to create things from scratch. It was so much work, and it didn't really work out. Like the one experiment that we did is we grew mold in the classroom, which is great, and then the mold got loose. So, whatever.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we had to dispose of that one, but that was fun. One time we used to take apart things in the classroom. There's a lot of kids who are very ADHD, very hands-on. They just like unscrew things, take them apart. But I'm going to give a lot of credit to the principal. The principal at the time, the general studies principal, was very supportive. And I was sure that I was going to be fired like any day. I felt I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And especially the teacher who was teaching the kids the other half of the time was like he had gone to teachers college and he was very like professional and very polished and he had everything. Was marking papers and giving them back and everything. And I wasn't. Like I was trying, but it wasn't working. And I thought he was a much better teacher, but the kids hated him. The kids hated this teacher's guts because he was really mean. He was really strict and he would scream at them. And they didn't like him. And they did like me. And it was probably very immature of me, but like I fed into that. I was like, whatever happens, at least I'm having a relationship with these kids. I'm going to give them a positive experience. And we tried. And then when I discovered that we could show movies in the classroom, that was like, oh, this is great. And then I started to find great educational videos to show the class. So that would be like an hour at a time where I knew that I had them, or 15 minutes at a time. And that's become a little bit of my hallmark. It's a little bit of a kryptonite, a little bit of an Achilles heel for me. Because again, people with ADHD love movement. They love visuals. And if you find a good video that you can download that teaches the subject, kids will love that. The problem is you don't want to be doing that instead of teaching, right? But at the same time, if you have a class that's very difficult, that they're out of sorts, and you know that you could put this thing on, it's like, well, why wouldn't you, right? And I remember I had an argument with the principal of my school. He's like, oh, you can't show so many videos. Too much. Parents are complaining. So my first rejoinder to that is going to be that you know what, the kids are probably watching a lot more videos at home. Just saying. Yeah, and that was 10 years ago. It's much more now. Like everybody is watching videos all the time. There are some families that are very careful. Some people the parents are very careful what they show their kids, but for the most part, the kids, they have access to a lot and they're seeing a lot. And you can tell that they're seeing a lot because they're like, why are you showing us all this stupid education stuff? Why didn't you show us something good? Like I watch at home, like bum 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 bum. Like, okay. But the person says, no, they don't watch anything at home. These boys are very sheltered and you shouldn't be showing them so much stuff. And in my mind, I was just like, this works, this is the one thing that gets them on board. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword because you don't want it to take over the teaching, but at the same time, it's the one thing that sort of can settle down a class if they're out of control. It was a very difficult year, but I think I made a cashier with the kids. I started to tutor in the mornings also. I was working with kids, and that was okay. I was sure they didn't want me back the next year, and they did. And it turns out it's hard to find people to teach English in the afternoons in a Jewish boys' school. It's really hard. And yeah, the kids were hard, but I think I came out of the year. I don't think there were any kids in the class who hated me.
Sounds like quite the contrary.
Yes. So the second year, so I actually switched my subjects, but it was a different experience, different classes. That was sort of a repeat of the first year, but a little bit better. Third year was a very difficult class. Third year was like there's like a bunch of like a lot of clicks and a lot of the kids just trying to sort of out-cool each other, showing how cool they were. So it obviously wasn't cool to show that you're into learning and anything, but they were a very interesting group. I made it safely through that year also. The fourth year was the year that I fired a class. There were two classes. And one of them was like textbook, like really from yeshivish kids, like right wing Haredim, you know what I mean? And like
Right.
really hyper, like not a lot of self control, but like a lot of positive energy and just not focused. And the other class, they were like cynical and mean and like they hated each other and they're always like doing horrible things to each other. But
That's
they
rough.
were, I couldn't handle it. And the funny thing is, the teacher who was teaching the teacher who was the other co-teacher couldn't handle these out of control ADHD kids. So we just said, you know what, I'm firing my class. She's going to fire her class. And I went full time into that room. She went full time into the other room. And it was good for everybody that year. I always feel bad for the kids in the class that I was fired because I don't like giving up on things. I felt like I
Right.
gave up on them, but it worked out well in the end. We had a hard time. I definitely had a hard time with this ADHD class, but we connected, and I didn't come home hating myself. Like one of the things, if you're teaching, you could be working hard, you could feel that you're not being effective, but if you come home hating yourself and you come home just feeling that like it's draining your soul and like you have no happiness left, it's not. That's when you try to figure something out. No, but if it's like, what am I going to do with this kid? Like again, there's kids who really are ADHD who need medication, they're not getting it, and that was year number three. No, that was sorry, the year number four. Year number five was another really bad year. Really, really, really bad year. We had in one class, I was doing the one class, and then that class, well, it was a really complicated mixture. There was a kid who I'm almost sure was on the autism spectrum. And again, I don't know if it was being managed properly. Nobody told me, but I think he was. There was another kid who was like high energy ADHD, and then there's another kid who had like major anxiety and was very manipulative. And like the other kids weren't much better, and it was just like constant, constant things going on in the room. Like somebody accused the kid who I think had autism of stealing, and the manipulator would get the ADHD kid to like go take the other kid's desk and dump it upside down and search through it and find the object, and then you'd have a whole mob trying to lynch the kid. And the poor kid is
Oh
hiding
gosh.
behind the closet and like crying. I'm like, like I know what's going on here, and I have no ability to do anything about it because like nobody told me about a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. This kid who has ADHD, he should be on medication. I don't think he is. His parents might be saying that he is, but I don't think he is. And the kid who had the anxiety was the manipulator. I don't want to give a lot of details. I don't want to get in trouble, but he was in a situation where, due to family, due to family influence, you know, a lot of people weren't really going to do anything to him because he came from a position of power. Like one time, he told I called him a snowflake. Okay, for the record, is calling somebody a snowflake a very bad insult?
I'm not sure. Um,
I don't think it
sure.
means you're sensitive, right? Yeah, a snowflake. I heard it from Ben Shapiro, I think. But calling somebody a snowflake is basically saying the guy's very sensitive, and like a snowflake, like if you touch it, it melts. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I got so frustrated. I called him a snowflake. Like, you insulted me. I'm gonna get you fired. I was like, oh, so like, I couldn't let him do that. So I went downstairs to the principal. I'm like, listen, I did something wrong. And by the way, this is also a great lesson for life. If you have ADHD or if you don't, you're probably going to screw up at some point in your life, and you're probably going to do something that might get you into a lot of trouble. Almost always better to take ownership and be proactive. If you're just going to let it sit and fester and like wait for the axe to fall, first of all, sitting and waiting destroys you. And second of all, it's usually worse. So I went down to the principal. I said, listen, I shouldn't have done it. I got mad. I called the kid a snowflake. He's like, what's a snowflake? It means he's sensitive, which he was. And like the kid was losing his mind. Like that year, I was like, was so much. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then along came Hashem and brought us COVID. I was like, whoa, get out of jail free. 2 weeks off from
Ah,
school because obviously COVID is only going to 2 weeks to stop the spread, right? And
right.
it ended up being till the end of the year, but whatever. I felt bad about it, but like that really saved me that year because that class, again, they're good kids, and again, almost all the kids who were there that year I've kept up a relationship with, and we ended up teaching. We ended up teaching over. First, we tried Zoom for a little bit till the school shut it down because teaching over Zoom created a lot of issues. Kids were sharing files in the background. It wasn't good. Then we did over the phone. Teaching over the phone was a weird experience. Like having the mute button was fantastic. You could just mute the kids and talk, but it's horrible because you don't know if anybody's listening, right? And
Correct.
like
Yeah.
on a good day, we maybe had half of the class, right? And many times we had less than half the class, and kids would be like, oh, he's with me. Like two kids are together in one kid's house, and like their phone's on mute the whole time, and like it turns out they were just like playing football in the backyard with the phone on. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, and like you try to send work, and like three kids send their work back, and it was really a disaster. But it was a good experience for just being out of that toxic environment because the kids couldn't get at each other's throats. Anyways, at that time, like a week before COVID started, I was offered a job in a company doing with a weird job, the type of job which only works for an ADHD person because it was graphic design, web development, and like QuickBooks and stuff like that. So like I was doing both parts and like doing collection calls and like, it was just sort of everything. They sold it to me on the graphics point because I wanted to learn graphics, and they're like, "Yeah, we have Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. You can learn all that." I'm like, "Great." So I decided I was going to do that in the morning. I dropped the tutoring. Did I mention about my IT course that I took?
I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. There's a, like again like are you familiar with Jessica McCabe?
Yeah, she's great material.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, I just bought her
Great
audiobook.
TED Talk.
Yeah,
You
she's
heard her TED Talk?
fantastic.
Amazing
I
TED
heard her
Talk.
TED
Yeah.
Talk. Yeah, no, it's very she's fantastic. One thing that I don't like after having read her book is that it turns out that she had been in acting and in like movie like whatever like the movie industry trying to make us actors. And now I think like are all of her YouTube videos just like scripted and like she just like doing all the things that she learned in theater school? Like maybe it's not real. I think people say that people with ADHD can sense people who are faking it and they like people who are genuine, right? And like I felt that she's very
Yeah.
genuine. I love people who are genuine. And like I was just it put that seed of doubt in my mind, like maybe she's just like has like a director who's like telling her to say all these things and like making up stories just that she should be popular. I'm like, don't ruin this image, right?
Uh-oh.
But she's just yeah, but
Yeah.
whatever, you know what? Just take it as it is. But she's pretty good. The biggest miler that she has, I found, because again, if you like go on YouTube and you look up ADHD, she's gonna come up. She's like whatever they're doing, she's doing it right. She's coming up. She's really popular. She's gone viral, and she's very entertaining. She's quick. She understands it. So it's great. But what she really does is that she takes a lot of information that other people have spent years gathering and learning and studying, and she puts it into these little bites and these funny stories. And like it's just the accessibility that she provides, I think, and like feeling like she's not a professor, she's just a person talking about her stupid things that happen. And that's very engaging. And that was good. Again, being a man, I always feel like I don't know if I should be listening to a lady. My wife was like, you shouldn't be listening to her. I'm like, well, okay, so I don't listen to her that much here and there. But she is fantastic. And her book How to ADHD is pretty good. Again, at that point, I'm on such a tangent right now. There's like all coming out of my working as a graphic designer and web developer and sales guy. Let me get on this okay.
IT.
Ah,
How you
IT.
got into your IT course?
Yeah. Yeah, the IT course was actually before that. So yeah, so somebody from my school was like, "Oh, you should be in teaching." This is a horrible line. I hated this line that he told me. He said, "Being a Rebbe has an early expiration date." I was like, "That is such a horrible thing to say."
Oh
And
gosh.
he's like, "Yeah." I mean, as I told it to someone said, "Yeah, it's probably true." But I was like, "You still can't say that. It's so horrible. Like, it's such an important job." And this guy's like, "No, you need to be making real money." Anyways, yeah. So the guy's like, "Oh, you got to sign up for this IT course." You're like having a course for teaching people IT. So I was like, "Whatever, I guess so." And like he was sort of paying for it. So I took it. I took him up in his offer. I started the course. A bunch of people started the course, and the course was a little bit of a scam because there was a lot of people who were at the course who should not have, people who didn't know how to use computers or people who didn't have the right type of mind for IT. Like there wasn't a lot of screening who should be there, who should not be there. But there were a few guys there who were good at it. And again, I couldn't. It was very hard sitting through these 3 hour long sessions with the instructor. But I was overall pretty good at it. Because like IT, I think a lot of it, like you have to be like a very intuitive type of thinker, just like learning how networks work and how they connect and all the different stages. There's a lot of little details. I felt like I would never understand those little details. But once you got those little details, like you just get this intuitive understanding of how networks work. I got pretty good at it. And I took it pretty seriously. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be my ticket out. Because again, remember this year I was having a hard time teaching. I was like, that'll be my ticket out. I was doing it and then the course branched into programming. And then it just I don't know why I should theoretically be a good programmer, but I don't know, maybe it was the way it was being taught. Maybe it was just, it didn't work for me. And I realized that my real passion was in design. Like, you know what? Why am I spending all this time learning programming and IT? I should be like doing graphics because I'm really artistic. Like just doing that type of stuff where like working to my strengths instead of pushing myself in areas that are harder. And that's like, I just like sort of gave up on the programming aspect. Again, I know more about programming than most people, but I never really broke into the programming world. I was like, oh, you make a lot of money in programming, but it didn't really work. I was like, I'm going to learn graphics. And then I got this job. Oh, so I got this job for this company, and the graphics wasn't a big portion of it. It was sort of a small portion, but it did give me an opportunity. I really learned Photoshop well. I learned, well, again, it was a process, slowly learning Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. Got better at web stuff. Like just, it wasn't bad working in that office, but it was incredibly boring. It was very monotonous, very much the same thing day in, day out. Not a lot of design opportunities, but it came up here and there. And I did it. So I definitely broke through in that area. Like I was getting paid for doing graphic design, which means I'm now a professional designer, hat on the back. But that was COVID hit. So that was teaching a class over the phone from that office and then work at the end of the year. I was like the guy from the office, like, oh, you want to come here full time? And I was thinking to myself, like, this is my ticket out of the teaching world because it's like so crazy. Like kids are really hard to work with, whatever, and like just work here in the office. And I spoke to my Rav, spoke to my rabbi, and he gave me the go ahead to like just leave the teaching world. I was like, yeah, finally done. And I was like laying in bed that night. I was like having this panic attack. I'm like, how could I leave that world? I love the world of being in the school so much. Like I didn't like dealing with the nonsense. Like I like dealing with kids. I like people. I like the vibrance. Like I can't stand just being in this dark, dingy office, like one guy maybe, or maybe not even. And just like sending emails and receiving emails, like sitting in front of a computer all day long. It's just like, how could I give up the vibrance of like a world infinite? So another message to all the listeners: if you feel that there's a job that you make a lot of money at, but you hate it, maybe you won't make a lot of money because you're going to hate it. So do a job that you like. Try to find something that you don't hate. Try to find something that you really enjoy. And maybe it's a luxury. Maybe you don't have that opportunity to do it. But if that opportunity presents itself, go for it. Like, why do something that you really don't like? Try to find something that you can enjoy and enjoy working hard at. So again, like the ADHD in terms of teaching, it really, really affected me. And people say that I'm a very creative teacher. I feel that I'm very creative. I don't know about a teacher. Like I come up with new ideas every day. And it really hampers me because like, I have a hard time using materials from the previous years. First of all, because I've lost them, whether it's in the cloud or on a USB or physical. Like I have no idea where. I have so much stuff and it's all disorganized. Like, and I have this dream, this fantasy of organizing it all and having it all put together. You know what I mean? And having it in like these beautifully organized folders that I've spent hours just trying to get it going and then it peters out. And like I have a few of these projects going on. Like I have a Microsoft OneDrive, I have a Google Drive, I have USBs, I have an external hard drive, I have my computer, I have paper files. It's just like, you know what, if all that information just got deleted today and like all the papers got burned up, you know, I wouldn't even mind. Because it's like, first of all, like I'm never sure if what I did was good. It's like the second guessing yourself. And second one, it's like just like it'll be a chance to start from fresh. You know what I mean? And this brings us on to the
Right.
topic
Wow.
of hoarding. Yeah, like so you know that there's hoarding disorder and then there's ADHD people with hoarding symptoms, right?
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so there was a seminar. So there's a great magazine. So if anybody who wants to know more about ADHD, it's called Attitude. Are you familiar with the Attitude magazine?
Here, yeah, yeah. Excellent.
Yes, I signed up for it recently. And again, it's sort of dumb because like if you've read books on ADHD and like you've done courses and like you listen to like in-depth podcasting, like you're reading this magazine, it's a lot of like sound bites. It's like one-page articles, you know, and like maybe two, 3-page articles. And it's just like a little smattering. But it's good because it keeps you involved and also it starts to expose you to the big names in the field, right? So are you familiar with
Yes.
Dr. Ari Tuckman?
Sure, yeah.
Yes, I ended up signing up for a course. Well, he presents 6 of the courses. He's pretty good. He's pretty
He's
good.
good. He's very good.
So like I got a lot from listening to this course. I'm not certified yet, and the problem is that like I'm going to be certified as what? Just a person who knows about ADHD. It's supposed to be a certification that you apply to something that you already have, like a social worker or a psychotherapist. So that's another dream is maybe becoming a social worker or a psychotherapist and maybe working with people with ADHD one on one. But in the meantime, I want to know about ADHD, and I really enjoyed his presentation. So I found out that he's a person through the magazine, right? Again, the magazine, the caveat, I mean, not everything there is for kids. So if you're a kid or if you have kids, maybe whatever, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
But I get all these emails from Attitude Magazine. They always have these seminars. By the way, dirty secret. Most of the time, somebody doing a seminar means that they just publish the book and they want to push their book. So like somebody's gonna have like a 2 hour interview because they want to push their book. But at the same time, a lot of times the interview is good. Like Jessica McCabe, I think she was interviewed by them. Many other authors are, and you pick up stuff and it's good. But there's one about hoarding that I really wanted to listen to. Like I'm not a hoarder per se, but I know what hoarding is, and I do have a lot of stuff. I don't have like that, like a real mental disorder of hoarding. It's just like stacks and stacks and stacks of stuff. But like I have huge piles of stuff. So I downloaded it. I never ended up listening to it. I did print out the PowerPoint papers, the slides that went along with the course. I was reading through it and basically saying that, and I also heard this from Ari Tuckman in one of his things, that there's hoarding symptoms that will be found with ADHD, but it's not an emotional attachment to the items. It's more just like, I can't possibly sit down and work through this pile of stuff and organize it. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the brain for it. It just grows on you. It's all this idea that like, I can't throw it out because I might need it later. It's not like this weird emotional attachment, like, oh, I need this blanket because I had it for so long. And he said the real difference between a true hoarder and an ADHD person with hoarding symptoms is that the ADHD person, if his house were to burn down, everything gets destroyed, he'd be like, what a relief. Thank goodness I got rid of all that stuff. And I started to realize that that's like it's great. Like I don't need this. I don't know how to process it. Whereas like a true hoarder, it's like if they lose one of the things that like they're one of their precious possessions, they're like they lose their mind. It becomes like Gollum with the ring, right? If you know what I'm talking about, like precious.
Yes, I do.
Anyway,
Yeah, I don't speak
there you
Elvish
go.
either, but I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's like a true hoarder is something like Gollum. You know what I mean? Like yeah, we're not trying to throw shade on hoarders, but like there's like a strong
Or
emotional
Gollum. Yeah.
attachment. Or Gollum, yeah, Gollum.
Yeah.
I don't like Gollum. I don't like Gollum, but I like how he speaks. I can't do it right now. Anyways, okay, so back on track. So doing yeah, so basically I couldn't yeah, so I couldn't leave the teaching. I sort of kept working in the office in the morning, teaching in the afternoon, and like for the next 2 years in Oklahoma City, we had a lot of lockdowns, and and teaching over the phone, and it was a little bit of a scam. It was a little bit of a scam teaching over the phone. Again, like we taught for less time, the kids weren't really listening, whatever. But it helped me get through the next 2 years, and then we came out of it, and I was like, you know what? I want to be in the school full time. I want to be in the school full time. I went to the principal. I said, like, do you have a position for me that I could? Because I know that the guy they have in my school, they have a permanent sub, which is like a rebbe, who's every day in school. And anytime there's one of the rebbes who's missing, he'll go into that class. Which, if you work in a school or you run a school or your kids go to a school, that's a great thing to have. Because,
Yeah.
like, if you can imagine what a sub going into the classroom is in a normal situation, you bring some guy who doesn't know the kids don't know him, and kids are like, it's party time. And they
Yes,
make
it
the
is.
kid,
Yeah.
they make the guy's life miserable. He makes their life miserable. They're fighting, they're screaming, there's kids in trouble. It's like a wasted day. Whereas here, if you have this permanent sub, like I have classes that like the guy who was a permanent sub took over a class. I knew that position was open, so I sort of asked if I could have it, and he sort of gave it to me. So that
Oh
being said,
wow.
like I basically know almost every kid in the school's name on a first name basis. Like from like from pre-UNA up to like yeah, almost everybody. I know I definitely know like last names and almost every kid on a first name basis. 200 kids in the school. And like I know the kids pretty well. Like I know families. I know that like oh he's a whatever. He's a Weisberger. Oh okay, he's a Weisberger. I get it. Or he like you know what to expect from kids. You know what to expect from parents. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Because first of all, like teaching in the morning, it was much more my vibe. Because like a Rebbe, I think a Rebbe can get away with a lot more ADHD than like a general studies teacher. Because I think a Kodesh, like a Jewish studies curriculum, is a lot less structured. There's a lot more of like a Sobrangan type of situation. Where like we're gonna sing a song, we're gonna tell a story, we're gonna do an art project. Whereas like in the afternoon, it's like a few hours, like gotta do the math, gotta do the science, gotta get through it, right? And like the
Because you're seeking
ADHD
to
Rebbe,
inspire, not just,
yeah, and like
you're
and
seeking
that
to
I love.
inspire your religious feelings, not just
Yeah,
giving information.
and also like I felt it was more worthwhile, like being a religious person, like you feel like what you're doing is worthwhile. Like the teaching in the afternoon is like the kids don't care, the school doesn't care that much, like the parents don't care that much, and it's like the kids who want to learn they'll do well. The kids who aren't interested are not going to do well because they're not interested. And, like it's very hard to inspire them. Even if you do, like I inspired him to learn his timetable. He'll probably learn it anyways next year. You know what I mean? Whereas in the morning, it's like this great feeling of like giving over like a tradition. We have a thousands of years of Jewish tradition, being able to give that over. It was like, yes, and also like living the dream. Like I always had like Rebbe's who I don't want to say I idolized because we don't like the term idol in Judaism, but Rebbe's who I like, they were real role models. Like I'm doing what he did. It's so awesome. I could stay over this funny story that he told me when I was a kid, and it's like it's very cool, and especially when you get the kids listening, like you have like a really
That's
fun,
great.
scary story, and it's like hook them in, and like they're listening, and like okay, I'm gonna stop now. No, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. It's like heroin. It's like I never had heroin, but I'm sure it's like that. It's just like it makes you feel so good. Like when people want to hear what you have to say. And
Right.
and Baruch Hashem, because it's this permanent self situation, you're not a joke when you walk into the class. Some kids will try to take advantage. You're not going to be able to do what the Rebbe usually does. But you know the kids, they know you. And again, I come in, they know they're gonna have a fun time when I'm there. They're like, I'm making raffles and telling stories. I actually developed a game on my computer that I play with them, and it's sort of like a game show. And like you get the class going wild, and it's a lot of fun. Again, days like that when I'm in class in the morning, the afternoon sort of is that because I use up all my energy in the morning. But I don't mind doing it. Like I could be in class every day in the morning, especially like younger grades. Older grades, the kids are already a little bit cynical and they're like, I'm gonna push back. Like in the younger grades, they're like, we're gonna have a fun day. Let's have a fun day. And like we actually learn, and like the kids are davening in the morning, and they're doing their prayers and whatever else they're doing, and and it's great. And there's something I want to mention that Dr. Ari Tuckman talks a lot about, which is vitamin C for ADHD, which is the vitamin of connection, right? That people with
Yes.
ADHD they crave connection, and I think that was why I couldn't let go of the school. It's like just working in an office, like taking phone calls and like doing customer service stuff, and like there's not a lot of connection going. There's a little bit, and people mainly whine. Like, in a school, there's so much connection going on. You're connecting to the kids, you're connecting to the parents, you're connecting to the other teachers and rabbis, connecting to the principals. Like I'm exposing on an average day to like a few hundred people. It's like, and it's always changing. And another thing that I really liked, which people say that people with ADHD need structure. I'm horrible at structure. I'm horrible, horrible, horrible at structure. I think I might like it, but I don't. But I never like. I don't look for structure. But like the idea of a school year of being like
But you need
this
someone
week,
to make the
this.
structure for them. That's the best way to make
I'm
it work.
sorry.
You need someone to walk them through making the structure.
Yeah, somebody needs
They
to
have a
provide
difficult
this.
time making the structure. They need someone to help them with it.
Yeah, somebody, and it has to be. And when the structure works, you feel great, right? Like I know
Yeah.
there was a period of time when somebody was doing a course, it was like a program for the men of the community in Oklahoma City. It was like healthy eating and weight loss. It was like they had a nutritionist and they had a trainer, and you did like weekly weigh-ins and everything. And I did great with that because like the structure is provided. I'm working towards that structure. There's also a group of people, so you have that connection going on, right? And like every week there's something different. And it was great. It was fantastic. And then I stopped it, and then it wasn't fantastic. But while it was going, it was fantastic. So like in the school, you have that connection. Oh, you also have the structure of the year. Like every year is a separate entity. Like when you're working in a normal job, we're just working there. You just keep on working. And like it's January, February, it's March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. And you kind of keep on going until you get fired or you die or you quit or find another job, right? That's what happens,
I guess you could say
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, a great line from Jessica McCabe. I think she got fired. I think she had 13 jobs, as she says, and you're not sure how many of them she was fired from because one of them was a job that she was working, I think, at a McDonald's, and she went home for lunch and never came back. And she
Oh
and
gosh.
they called her. When she called up, she never picked up the phone. She doesn't even know if she was fired or not. So it ruins up her count. Whatever. But like the idea of a school year is great because it's first of all, like in the Jewish year, you have your Yom Tov, you have your holidays. So by the way, Judaism is great for ADHD in as much as Judaism provides a lot of structure as well, right? Like
Yes.
Yiddishkeit
Yeah.
really, if like you have your Yom Tovim, so that's gonna give you a little bit of structure. Like whatever you're doing, like Hanukkah, you gotta light the menorah. Okay, I'm gonna do menorah now. You gotta have luck. You have donuts. Okay, we're gonna do that. Pesach, you gotta clean your house, or you at least try to, right? So that, it gives you a little bit of structure. That's great. And you have Shabbos every week, which also gives you structure. But being at a school, like you have like working through this year, and then this year is going to end, and then there'll be a break, and they're going to do next year, and that's great because like just working on an endless slog, just like ongoing forever, like it's overwhelming, it's tedious, and it's very difficult, right? With having
Sure.
like we're going to do 1 year at a time, it's very much like sports, like professional sports. We have a sports season, like okay, so next season we're going to be better, and it gives you a chance to reset, right? So
Right.
that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
That's what. Yes, I'm in the school right now, like definitely with dreams of going into the mental health world again. Having worked through my own, I know I have some people who I know who went through problems with addiction. I know some people have problems with anxiety. I know some people with OCD. Um, yeah, like I don't know if it's true or not. People who are experts at mental health may say that I'm full of baloney, but I feel like I could diagnose OCD just by like looking at a guy. Like when I was in yeshiva, I used to schmooze with my learning partner, with my chavrusa for hours. We would like analyze people in the yeshiva, and there was like a certain
Sure.
personality type of like these people just like super, super like super inspired, specifically religiously, right? They would daven, they would pray
Right.
for hours at a time, and like always like a pained look on their face, and they're always doing the right thing, like skinny and pale, and their hands were always red. And now I'm like, hey, all those guys had OCD. I just diagnosed them. And it's true. I mean, they're not bad people, but like I understand. Like I could never understand like how come he can do all of the things that he needs to do? How come he can daven for hours? How come he can always be on time? How come he can learn? How come he can do everything right? I'm like, I'm always late and I'm always falling apart and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, OCD. Thank goodness I don't have OCD. OCD is a very difficult condition to live with. I'm working with a guy right now. Working with a guy right. I just started to work with a guy on myself on my ADHD to try to work through it. And this guy, he specializes in ADHD and OCD. And I just discussed OCD with him a little bit. He's like, OCD is a very painful condition to have, like much more painful than ADHD. And like it creates like a lot of anxiety, a lot of pain. Whereas like ADHD, if you can manage it properly, like generally speaking, like you have a much more positive life. Like you're always full of like great ideas and like you have a short memory for the bad things that happen. You're always ready for like a refresh and doing something new. So Baruch Hashem, I'm going to say right now, thank God for my ADHD. It is who I am, but okay, it's part of who I am, right? And it
Right.
doesn't mean I was talking to one of my friends this morning. I was talking about my daughter that I think she has ADHD that's not being properly managed and that may be causing some behavioral issues. And he's like, do you think that means that people with ADHD, brother, this is the guy who also has ADHD, who's the mile in the cipher or whatever I spoke about before. But he's like, does that mean that they don't have a Sahara, that they're not responsible for their actions? I'm like, no, it doesn't mean that they're not responsible for their actions, but it gives you insight into why they do what they do. You say, this person has ADHD, and when they act this way, I understand why, let's say the Sahara, let's call it the Sahara, is causing them to act that way. And we can also understand how to help them or how they can help themselves work against it. Because if you just think this kid is lazy, or you think this kid is bad, or you think this kid is violent, like, don't be violent, don't be violent. Okay, but like if you don't understand there's ADD going on there, you don't understand what the triggers are, you don't understand what the proper treatment and management is, you know, it'll really, really be harder to work with. So people with ADHD, you're not off the hook. But if you understand it, then you can work with it properly, right? It's like with in any medical areas, like non-mental health, like going back into like real, like not mental health, like physical health, whatever you call it, surgery type of health. Like a doctor is able to diagnose. A diagnosis is half of the treatment, right, or more than half. Once you have a proper diagnosis, then we can try to treat it. If we don't have a treatment, then we don't have one. So like figuring out what's wrong and then working on it.
So I was going to say, as we start to wrap it up, I think I was going to say, what's a message of hope you want to leave our listeners with?
Lesson of hope. A message. Okay, message. Okay, we're gonna go full on religious for this one. Is that it's not about you. It's about Hashem. Hashem is in charge. God is in control of the world. God controls your life. God gave you any strength and any weakness that you have. Right. So every person. So God forbid somebody is born with a physical disability. There's a kid in my class from previous year who was born with cerebral palsy, and this kid, he's super, super,
Oh, wow.
super inspirational. He's super inspirational. Like he does not give up on anything. Apparently, when he was a kid, he
Amazing.
had to have some surgery. Like he's like a really, really inspiring kid. Again, he has huge struggles. Like he can't use one of his hands properly. I'm sure a lot of things in his life are difficult. I'm sure he knows that people are maybe laughing at him behind his back, especially if they don't know him very well. But he pushes through it, and like that's what Hashem gave him. That's what God gave him. God didn't give that to me. If I do I want to have CP? No, I don't want to have it. And if Hashem would have given it to me, I'd probably be like, Hashem, why did you give this to me? But at the same time, He did give it to this boy, and this boy is thriving in spite of it, right? Hashem gave me
Right.
ADHD, right, which I didn't even know what it was. Hashem gives some people OCD, which is very painful. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know why. And like you guys are like, why did Hashem create suffering in the world, right? It's
Right.
obviously for a reason. There's all the different reasons why things have to be. But if you accept that it's not about you, that you were given your gifts and you were given your challenges, and it's your job to use them in the best way possible and try to overcome your challenges, I think that's a good message everyone should take with this. Accept who you are. Don't try to deny who you are. If you have a problem, accept it. If you have a strength, embrace the strength that you have and try to use it as much as work towards your strength, right? And brain freeze, brain freeze, brain freeze. Don't cut that out, by the way. People need to know that I had like a full Biden moment right now. I was actually looking out the window and started to think about something completely different. And I was finishing off my thought. Um,
Okay, no worries.
inspirational message, inspirational things about people with ADHD. Okay, specifically ADHD. ADHD is great because it's a condition that is easily, well, not easily managed. It's a condition that can be managed. And when it's managed, it really creates a lot of change in people's life. There's a very strong movement nowadays. Again, I'm gonna come back to the woke thing. Like we're not gonna go into wokeness, whether wokeness is good or bad or whatever. People can have their own opinion on it. But there's this idea nowadays that like you can never say anything negative, right? You can't say somebody's short. You have to say that they're vertically challenged, right? You can't. all the different things that like when you have kids are in a soccer league, every kid gets a trophy. Like nobody loses, right? It was a crazy story.
Right.
I was with my daughter in the hospital. She had to have a surgery, a small surgery done. But she was in the kids. It was a children's hospital, and we were in the waiting room to go into surgery. I have a TV now. I'm playing kids TV shows and movies, whatever. So there was a show, and she was watching it. She's a little kid, and I was looking at it, and it was like I think the show was called Bubble Guppies, if you know what that is. And the Bubble Guppies were playing basketball, but there was no other team. It was just one team trying to score, and it was so positive. It was so incredible how positive it was. Saccharine sweet, like hooray, you passed the ball. Hooray, you got the ball. Hooray, we scored. But there was no other team. Like, this complete removal of anything negative. Like I don't know if that's healthy for kids, right? So where am I
Right.
going with this? I'll going back to the ADHD. Yeah, there's this who saying, oh, ADHD is not a disability; it's a
And
superpower. You have an incredible superpower. So I think it was Jessica McCabe or maybe somebody else. Like, no, it's not a superpower. It messes up your life. It hugely, like, there's people, like, I think they say 40% of people in prison have diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD. Like, people go to prison because of ADHD. Um, people develop addictions. People die young. People get into car crashes because of ADHD. People's marriages fall apart. People can't get jobs. People declare bankruptcy. People become addicted gamblers from ADHD. It's not a superpower. There are types of ADHD which are a blessing. Like with things like this, oh well, this guy's ADHD, he's fantastic, he's incredible. Like famous people with ADHD. I'm drawing a blank. Help me out here. Who's a famous person with ADHD?
Michael Jordan,
He really had it for real? I didn't know that.
according to Google,
There you go.
according
Yeah,
to Google, he does. Yeah.
probably the people from Google had ADHD. Michael Jordan had. Oh, another thing. I was listening to. Who was I listening to? Oh, Ned Hallowell. He was saying that Navy SEALs apparently every Navy SEAL member is certified ADHD. It's like there's incredible strength that you can have. You can do things that nobody else can do. That hyper focus, that creativity, the magical spark that you have. That's something and like the artist and the musician and it's like and the positivity and like the comedians and everything that comes on ADHD is fantastic. At the same time, it's not like a magical it's not a magical thing that makes you an incredible person because there's a huge downside, especially when it's not managed, it's not treated properly. So like it's not a superpower. It's a real ankle. It's like a ball around. It's like smooth, horrible. Like the kids get to the 80s, they were saying in the old days, like man, I'm like wouldn't survive childhood. Like there's a lot of very dark things about ADHD, right? But at the same time, there's a balance, right? So if you can manage it properly, if you can learn about the condition, so which means if you have it, learn about it for yourself. People in your family, again, going back to Jessica McCabe, she has brains and she has hearts. You know what that?
Which
She
one?
talked
Brains
about
and Hearts, you said?
brains are like, hello brains, hi,
Oh, yeah, that
Jessica,
one.
hello
Yeah.
brains,
Hello,
like,
Brains.
hello
Yeah.
hearts. So brains are the people that their brain has ADHD, so they're listening to her because their brain is messed up or whatever. And the hearts are the people who want to learn about ADHD because somebody who they love, their child or their spouse or their whoever, has ADHD. So they either want to learn about it because somebody who they know who has it, or they want to know about it because of themselves. But yeah, learn as much about it as you can. And there's a lot of misconceptions about medication, about treatment, and about coaching, which you provide. Coaching is one of the most effective ways to help somebody with ADHD. So coaching and medication, that's a great combination. Like here's another problem, which you've probably come across. There are a lot of parents whose kids are diagnosed with ADHD and they're in denial about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to because it's like the mental health problem and it's horrible. And I don't want to deal with it. And they're willing to follow every snake oil salesman who provides any sort of natural remedy or some sort of weird therapy to help their kid with their ADHD. And they'll spend hundreds, and they'll spend thousands of dollars in time and effort. And sometimes some of these things do work because, again, just because they're not FDA approved and they're not been tested, maybe some of these things work. But a lot of them are really, they'll try everything. We're going to take red 40 out of the kid's food. We're gonna do this, we do that. And it doesn't help. The kid's still crashing and burning through school. And eventually, at the last resort, they're like, all right, I guess we'll try the meds because he's been kicked out of every school in the city. And they're like, oh my goodness, the kid is now able to do what he needs to do. It's fantastic. So, where am I with this? I was talking about a superpower. Oh, learn about it. Yeah, learn about the meds, learn about coaching, learn about one-on-one, learn about the power of exercise, learn about having a healthy diet, understand it. And when you do that, you will be able to manage the condition much better. And you know what? If Hashem wants you, if God wants you to be successful and you're trying, He will make you successful. And somebody comes up with some sort of struggle, some sort of difficulty that they feel that they can't overcome because there's an ADHD because of a different reason. Who gave you that difficulty? Who gave you that problem? It's all from Hashem. It's all from God. And you can say, God, you gave this to me. I feel that I don't have the tools to deal with it. I don't know how to help me out over here because I want to work with it. I want to overcome it. And when you put God on your team, when you have Hashem working with you, there's nothing that can't happen, right? And that's that.
Yeah.
I really have a lot more. I have a lot more to say, but we may even have to do a third one. Let me know if you want to do that. I don't want to take over the whole podcast. I could talk about this for hours.
Okay, we'll be in touch. All right, Rabbi Blackman, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the ADHD Heroes podcast. For questions about the podcast, you can email us at adhdheroespodcast@gmail.com. Also, for sponsorships or to share your story, your ADHD story, you can also email us at the same place, adhdheroespodcast@gmail.com. To be in touch with me about ADHD coaching, writing, or speaking engagements, you can email me at rsreichadhdcoach@gmail.com. Be sure to check out my website, rsreich.com, adhdcoach.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn, or you can check out my blog on nefesh.org. Check out my blog there under my name. Important disclaimer, podcasts are great, but they do not take the place of mental health help or medical help. So if you need help with mental health or need a doctor, be sure to be in contact with some of them. Please, if you like this show, please rate, review, and share with a friend. That's how these things get out there. Thank you again for listening, and thank you to our producers at Pretty Easy Podcasts.